Hey all, Flame here, and welcome back to the HFC Sonic-a-thon 3 and Knuckles. I want to start off this run by saying thank you very much to everyone who supported the marathon up to this point. It's been a lot of very generous donations toward Child's Play, and we very much appreciate that. But today, with this run, we are playing a game that there's been quite a bit of talk about lately, I've noticed. There's a lot of people seem very excited about Sonic the Hedgehog 4. There's been some talk about, like, Amy Rose and Metal Sonic for some reason, not quite sure what that's about. I especially don't get the Jim Carrey stuff, but, you know, I'll let it slide. I know, exciting games are exciting. We're gonna start a new game of Sonic 4 Episode 1. And I am playing this on the Xbox 360 version on my Xbox Series X. And the reason for that is mostly because the PC port of this game is kind of not great. Like, if I'm being completely honest, it's functional, but the thing is, I'm playing this on a 4K monitor, and the PC port doesn't seem to play very nice with resolutions above 1080p, so it doesn't really matter much when you're watching this on the stream and it's cropped down and whatnot, but when you have it on your monitor right in front of you, that's when it gets a little bit blurry, a little bit kind of obnoxious to look at. So I thought I'll just use the built-in upscaling they do. It still doesn't look particularly great as a game, although that's more of a art style thing than a tech thing. Because one thing I did learn while researching stuff for this playthrough is that when this game got an iPad re-release later down the line, that iPad re-release had some improved textures over the console and PC versions, which were never then patched back into the original versions. And I know there are some mods that people have put out to restore those iPad textures, which that feels like a really fucking bizarre thing to say, the fact that the iPad version is in some ways the better version. It's the version that fixed up some of the issues from the previous ones. But, you know, when a game gets re-released later, that kind of happens sometimes. This level, the main gimmick, as you can probably see, are all these swinging, I guess rope things, even though they're more like vines. They act like ropes but look like vines, so I guess I was sort of right. But yes, this game was originally conceived as a mobile game, primarily. It was originally going to be called Sonic the Portable. And the idea was that it would be on mobile phones. It was also going to be on the iPod Touch, which for any of the younger viewers who might not know what that is, it's basically an iPhone without the phone part. It was an iPod, a music player that had a touch screen and there were games for it. I had one, I mainly just used it for music. That was very much a product of its time, that now basically every phone has music capabilities and supports games and whatnot. It's kind of redundant now, but you know. I kind of sort of wish there were still devices like it around, if only because I don't really think giving kids smartphones is that great of an idea. They shouldn't really have the entirety of the internet available to them. So having a portable device that they can play games on, play music on and whatnot, that's cool, but does it really need to be a phone? Do they really need to have 4G support at school? I don't think so, but that's kind of its own thing. Yeah, going back to the general art style of this game, I feel like it's a game that it doesn't really know what it's going for. It sort of understands the appeal of classic Sonic on surface level only. And a lot of the game's shortcomings are basically because of that. Because this game, everyone who's ever talked about this game in any capacity has talked about the physics. The physics are just you can get used to them. The game isn't unplayable or anything. I'm sort of bluffing my way through these levels just fine, but it is not classic Sonic. If you play one of the Mega Drive games and then go straight onto this, you're probably going to have a rough time. This game is actually a lot easier if you just sort of try to forget how to play Sonic and just go into this as though it's like a different platformer entirely. So that's the sort of thing I mean by it being a very surface level take on 2D Sonic, but also like the visuals, it's like we've got our Green Hill clone. It looks a bit plasticky, the textures in the background there look really flat. It really doesn't feel as immersive as like the old parallel scrolling that they had on the Mega Drive. It's just a bunch, it feels like a bunch of assets crudely thrown together, really. And I will say, like, I'm starting off pretty strong with the whining, as I have a tendency to do, which I try not to be too whiny these days, but it sort of kicks in sometimes. I don't dislike this game. There's a reason why I chose to play this for the marathon rather than palming it off on Tom, which is my occasional go-to when I don't feel like playing something. Like, I do still have fun with parts of this game, but it's a similar sort of situation with a lot of the more divisive Sonic games, where you can have fun with them, but you have fun with them with caveats. You sort of see a similar kind of thing with some of the other games that I've run in the marathon, like Shadow the Hedgehog Reloaded. Very good readaptation of Shadow the Hedgehog, very good like mod, fixes a lot of the minor issues. But the original Shadow the Hedgehog game, it's another one of those games that you enjoy with caveats. Like, the control is a little bit all over the place, it's very slippery, the missions where you have to like find a bunch of enemies, find a bunch of items, whatever, yeah, they can like outstay their welcome, but I still like Shadow the Hedgehog despite that. Sonic 4 is a very similar kind of beast in that respect. I realised that I did kind of get twatted twice by the easiest boss in history, but, you know, with that boss I kind of find it quicker to just tank the hits and keep on hitting him than to actually be sensible about it. And that's my cope when that run starts bothering me later. But right after Not Green Hill, we move on to Not Casino Night, and I lost that shield very quickly. This is a good demonstration of how the momentum in this game is kind of fucked. Because normally, in classic Sonic, if you want to build up speed, if you want to build up momentum, the dreaded M word, it's almost always in your interest to roll into a ball, maybe spin dash to kind of get yourself going. This game, not so much. This game, you're faster just running, and also you're faster jumping. Like, the jump in this game gives you a bit of a free boost, oddly enough, which sort of happens in some of the advanced games as well. Like, Advanced 3 in particular, I remember being quite odd with that, in that jumping carried your momentum more than rolling. This is basically like a clunkier version of what Advanced had going on. Because, like, in case it's not obvious from like the weird and wonderful control quirks and whatnot, this is another Dimps game. Just like the Advanced games, just like the Rush games. Dimps, they're kind of, I see them as like middle of the road developers. They're not bad, they've done some pretty great games. Like, I like Advance 2 a lot. Advance 1, maybe not quite so much, but it's a very well made game. It's got a lot going on that I do like. The first Sonic Rush is a lot of fun as well, bottomless pits aside. But then they do also have some, I guess, peak mediocrity, like Sonic 4 Episode 1. Episode 2 is kind of an improvement in a lot of ways, so I can let them off the hook for that one. But maybe I can't let them off the hook for Sonic Lost World 3DS, which has a lot of its own problems. And who knows, maybe I'll have another chance to talk about that later in the marathon. We'll see. But this game is better than Lost World 3DS purely on the basis that there's no motion controls. No, the control in that game's mostly fine, but when you get into the special stage and it expects you to like use the 3DS gyro, it's like, nah. Not happening, mate. Not fucking happening. Now, this level, I remember spending quite a bit of time on this one, because the 360 version of this game has an achievement where like you unlock it if I recall correctly, it's if you get either 99 lives or 100 lives. And this level gives you a lot of opportunities to earn lives. Like, there's rings all over the place, there's those cards all over the place. And if you get three, I think it's if you get 3 of the life cards, then you just get new life. And, you know, just run through this level a few times and you'll basically be nearly there. I'm not doing too well with the timing on these cards, but, you know, that is what it is. I've never been great at timing these things, and I'm especially a bit conscious of it in this level. Because, like, early on it's fine, but there is a section later on where you have to time your jumps across those switching cards, where it's over a pit. So you can probably understand why I'm sort of a bit hesitant to, like, go stupid with them. I hope you like the sound effects, because you're going to hear a lot of them. Like, this run, I haven't been playing that amazingly, if I'm being honest, but I'm already at 16 lives. Like, they are throwing lives at you, and to be fair, this game does get quite hard in, like, a couple of the later bosses. So, it's not really a bad thing to stock you up accordingly for that. But, you know, when you're at this point in the game, it sort of makes you wonder, like, huh, okay. And yeah, these barrels, I got killed by the barrel, of course I did. I was gonna say that those barrels there are very obvious 2D assets that the lighting in the game doesn't really do that good of a job of emphasizing. But again, I think that's kind of where a lot of this game's art style's problems come from, in that although it's trying to be a 3D setting, and occasionally you get like 3D gimmicks like this card road here, it feels very flat. There's a lot of parts of this game that it just feels like, you know, the game uses a lot of baked lighting, where the lighting itself is just drawn onto the texture, rather than having an active lighting engine doing it live. So it just looks really, really flat. And when you're playing on an iPhone screen, you probably wouldn't notice like half of this shit. But at the end of the day, well, the final product we got wasn't just an iPhone game. It was on the iPhone, but it was also on systems that people were going to be playing on HD TVs. And when you play it on a HD TV, it's really not that flattering. Make up for that terrible last attempt at this section by going the higher route this time. And hopefully not fuck this up. Okay, on the top route. There we go. We're moving, we're making progress. I feel like the casino areas in Sonic games, I like the general trope, but they do have a bit of a tendency of being a little bit loud, a little bit of a sensory overload. This one's not too bad with that, but when you get to stuff like, say, Carnival Night in 3 Knuckles, that's when it is a bit much. That's when the, like, red and black colours bouncing off each other, I just find a little bit too abrasive on the eyes. This one is literally just using the Casino Night colour scheme, so it's really not the end of the world, but like I say, there are much worse examples of it. I haven't really brought up the way the special stages work yet in this run. You might notice that I'm just ignoring the big rings. I'm just keeping this simple. I'm keeping this a, like, bad ending run, I guess. Mainly because there's really not much in the way of difference in the ending. Like, we're gonna get, like, one of the try again things at the end here, but otherwise the story doesn't really change, so I just thought... I'm not really the biggest fan of this game's special stages, because it's just like the Sonic 1 special stages, except you control the arena rather than Sonic. So, it's a level run. Oh, look how flat these barrels are, even though they do have, like, attempted 3D shading. That's the sort of thing I was getting at. I've also not brought up this game's music yet, which is kind of a surprise, because that's something else that was very, very, very contentious when this game came out. I'll be blunt and say that, like, I understand why people don't like it. It does sound like dying cats, but there's no, like, working around that. It just sort of does. But at the same time, like, some of the melodies are fine. I like Splash Hill. I like some of the Mad Gear themes that we'll hear in a little bit. Some of them are kind of forgettable. Like this song, I'm never going to think of this again after I'm done with the game today. But, like, it's fine. There's also some really good ones in Episode 2, which had, like, a similar sort of direction with the music. I remember this part, you have to sort of go a little bit ajar. Like, there aren't any rings telling you that you should go this way, you just have to sort of figure it out. But once you have figured it out, then it just sort of sticks with you. It's one of those kind of parts of a Sonic level. I was a little bit worried I would get crushed again there, but I managed to survive, thankfully. I've noticed this a lot when I've been talking about these games that I've been playing. It's like, I just get a bit panicky in my voice and then I just have a sigh of relief and I survived. Maybe this isn't the right way this time. Maybe this time I go over here. See, I remember the trick one. I didn't remember the fairly simple one. This one, we are just following the rings, so that's okay. It's very rare that you get one of those, like, bouncing chains across the enemies like I just got there. But on the rare occasion it does happen, it does feel good. It's one of those things that, like, doing cool things in Sonic, things that it feels like maybe you weren't entirely supposed to do, is part of why I feel like these games are so popular with speedrunners. And, like, even me, I'm not a speedrunner by any means. I am, like, absolute dirt casual with the Sonic games. But even then, it's like every now and then I find little tricks I can do, little skips that kind of, even if they're just cutting off like a couple of seconds, it's still, it feels good. This is like a very inspired by the Sonic 2 boss kind of thing, like sort of how the first boss was inspired by the Sonic 1 Green Hill boss. And the thing there is that I don't think this game being as derivative as it is would have been a problem had it just been like what it was originally conceived to be just be a mobile spin-off. But when you sell a game as Sonic the Hedgehog 4, and this is what a lot of the contention for this game boils down to, when you sell a game as Sonic the Hedgehog 4, people reasonably expect it to be a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. And it isn't. Even with both of the games played back to back, it's still like a fraction as impactful as Sonic 3 and Knuckles was. And I say that as someone who's not even that huge on 3NK. It's like Sonic 3 and Knuckles kind of set a new level on the production value of what like a 2D Sonic game would be. It's so much bigger than Sonic 2, it's so much more fleshed out in terms of like the story, the setting and whatnot than Sonic 2. And then for Sonic 4, we come back to, well, okay, here's just like a mishmash of random levels that you've kind of seen before. And again, like I say, I don't dislike this, but I do find it very underwhelming. And nowadays, it's not the end of the world. Like, I know what I'm in for now. I know what Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1 consists of, so playing it nowadays, it's like, I know that I'm going to be done in an hour. But back in the day, when this was being marketed as like a return to form for Sonic, this was like doing away with the things that people were complaining about all the time during like the mid-2000s, when like, just to kind of sum up the difference in culture, the difference in what the Sonic fan base was kind of like around the time this game came out. One of the marketing things they did for this game, that was a stupid jump, I don't know why I did that. One of the things they did was they had this post on their social media accounts where it had a list of all of Sonic's friend characters, like all these Sonic casts, so Sonic and like Shadow, Rouge, Blaze, what have you. And what they would do as part of this game's marketing is every now and then they would go and update that, like the list, the graph thing they had, and they would cross out another character. And they would say that like all the characters left will be the cast of the new Sonic game. And it was basically a big selling point to a lot of people at that time, that the only playable character in this new Sonic game was going to be Sonic. This guy is taking the piss. And because like this was the absolute peak of the whole like Sonic shitty friend discussions. I got hit anyway, that was kind of pathetic. The conversation, the dialogue around Sonic at the time was very amateur in terms of criticism, I guess, in that a lot of the prominent figures were a lot younger and didn't really know how to structure their arguments that well, but also a lot of journalists were just absolute fucking hacks, and you know, if they got a Sonic game in, they would just basically see that as like, oh, I get a half day, I can play 20 minutes of this new game, find a bug, complain about something, and that's my article. So a lot of the conversation was very poisoned with, oh, it's Sonic's shitty friends, oh, Sonic had a rough transition to 3D, all that sort of bollocks that nowadays we sort of know better than. But Sega clearly saw a lot of that, and this game was their response. And so was like a lot of the meta era, as it would later become known. Like, sometimes that worked out, like Colors was another Sonic only game, but that was a lot of fun. Generations was also like, Generations is a fantastic game that only stars Sonic as a playable character, but that one, like the level design was so good, and just the general vibe around Sonic at that point was just so like, it felt like we were coming out of the Dark Age when Generations came out. All the, like, bad vibes around from 06 and the following on from 06 were kind of on their way out when Generations came out, and it was fun. But yeah, Sonic 4 was the one where it's like, this is the most obvious of, you know, we're overcorrecting a problem that's been pointed out to us that wasn't even that much of a problem. Like, if you remember, a lot of the different playable characters that showed up in, like, say, Adventure in 06, the problem wasn't that the other characters were playable or that they were necessarily bad characters. It was just that there was this kind of awkward compromise where a lot of the characters, they'd put them in and they'd come up with gameplay styles for them that kind of broke the pace. Like, I know everyone immediately goes to blame like Big the Cat for that, but like Big wasn't really the problem in SA1. I would say that Amy's control and basic gameplay was like 100 times worse than Big's was. I mentioned it earlier how like sometimes it feels like Sega are overcorrecting and just only taking surface level understandings of what people like about Sonic. That's a trend that's never really gone away. And I feel like that's how we end up with things like Superstars, where They know we like Sonic Mania, they know we liked classic Sonic, they know we liked 2D Sonic gameplay. But they kind of missed the fucking point of why we like Sonic Mania. This part here takes some timing, so what you want to do, ideally, you want to hit the first one, then you want to hit 4, give it a second, then hit that, I think. I might have done that the wrong way around. No, I didn't do that the wrong way around, I just timed it poorly. So it is, make sure this one is on, then we do that, and then we do that, and we work our way up. Again, I am struggling with the timing because I am not great with this. That one, and that one, then that one. There we go. I made a right pig's ear of that, but like I said earlier, timing is not my strong suit. Which kind of makes Sonic the Hedgehog being my favourite video game series a little bit ironic, really. But this is one of the levels that was new in the console and PC version compared to the original iPhone, like smartphone, iPod Touch versions, because they had the like motion controlled minecart level, which I've never played that. I don't think there's mods to put it back in for the PC one, but I might be wrong there. But like, I understand why that was replaced. So I kind of don't like Sonic games having motion controls in general, but there's absolutely no reason to take that kind of gameplay into a game that doesn't use motion controls. I'm not sure if the Wii version of this game used any motion controls or not. Because there was a Wii version of Episode 1, there wasn't of Episode 2, which is kind of a shame for the people who were invested in the games at this point, but also Episode 2 feels like a console generation ahead, even though it wasn't compared to this. Like, you compare the visuals of this game to Episode 2, like, Episode 2 has some moments that are, like, genuinely gorgeous to look at. Which might be a surprise if you've only ever seen Sonic 4 from Episode 1. Oh, I guess I've accidentally jumped into this, so I guess we're doing one of the special stages. Will I get an extra life? I got an extra life. Very nice. Now let's see if I can do this or not. Like I said earlier, it's basically you control the stage, rather than Sonic himself, and just sort of guide him through. You do want to get rings, because there are ring gates like you see here, so I'm going to have to go back on myself and get some of the rings that I just sort of idiotically went straight past. There we go. But this is something else I believe that on the smartphone version was also motion controlled, which is probably why they made it, so that you control the stage itself rather than Sonic. It might have been a little bit fiddly trying to get Sonic to move around with motion controls. I mean, it's still kind of fiddly anyway, but it's like, I guess, more of an acquired skill playing this. There we go, I got one Chaos Emerald. Very, very important that I got one Chaos Emerald. I'm sure that will help us go Super for sure. Now, Super Sonic is in this game if you get all the Chaos Emeralds, but that's like the only thing that really changes of note. And same with Episode 2. Because like, at the end of this game, they take the Chaos Emeralds away from you. You can't, like, there's no, like, save feature thing where, like, you can carry them over into Episode 2, which I suppose that could have been, like, a cool way to handle things, or, like, they had an opportunity to bring the Super Emeralds back here by doing this, like, whole episodic thing. They could have easily done it, so that if you've already beat Episode 1, then, you know, you get a second wave of special stages there. that might have been something they were planning for the cancelled episode 3, possibly, since that was... Like, the assets we've seen of what episode 3 was supposed to be show Knuckles, and it seems very obvious that they were gonna take inspiration from 3 and Knuckles in some ways for episode 3. So, like, that maybe that's something they would have done there. This could go badly. This could go very badly. Oh, never mind. Let's get the speed up. That might help us here. We'll see. Just gonna give it plenty of concentration here, if I can even say the word. Replace the life I lost. See what I mean about the jump giving you more momentum than trying to spin dash? Because even though I know the spin dash in this game is like borderline useless, it's just when I'm playing Sonic, it's like instinct to try and use the spin dash. Because like in basically any other 2D Sonic, that's how you build up speed. It's not jumping and jump dashing and whatnot. It's roll into a ball, charge up the spin dash. Not falling for your bullshit, but I probably could do with some air soon. Because the drowning is here, as you might expect. I'm going to just tank that hit. There we go. Let's get the bubble. Thank you, game. Thank you very much. That one maybe wasn't quite as necessary to tank, but alas. Thank you, little air bubble. That's one thing I can say for this, like, not Labyrinth Zone. The air bubbles seem a lot more consistent than they did in Sonic 1. Because that always was one of my pet hates for Sonic 1, in that it's not necessarily that Labyrinth is like this awful zone, unplayable zone. It's just that there were plenty of moments where you would try to just get air, but for some reason it would just take longer to come out. That section there, I've seen a lot of people complain about that, but all you've basically got to do is just go left a bit, go right a bit. You don't actually have to just, you know, tank the spikes head on. Is there anything over here? Yep, there's a switch. So now we go back over on the right. Nope, next one. Go over here. There we go. Thank you for the life. And now for probably the worst boss in the game. This one is really annoying, and it's mostly annoying because it has some instant death attacks. You will see what I mean very, very shortly. But it does also have this opening section that is sort of trying to be a throwback to the chase part in Labyrinth Zone Act 3 without really capturing the tension that that part of Labyrinth Zone Act 3 had. Like, you can still get early hits on it, which is nice. But, you know. So, what he does here, he will start bringing out Crusher pillars, and he will, as you might expect, try to crush us. Which, that is one of the easier patterns this thing can do. There's a couple where you need super fast reactions to be able to dodge them, and since they are instant kill if they crush you, that's asking quite a lot. Like, this one is particularly fiddly, because you have to sort of go over to the right, and then just make a very quick jump back over to the left. That one, like, I'll say it's an easier pattern, but I also don't necessarily trust the control that well, that I'm going to be able to get off of the vertical one in time. Because if it goes all the way, it's going all the way. At least this one lets me get a second hit in. There we go. First take this time. I'm actually quite happy with that, because that can go absolutely horribly, and I'm sure that some of you guys watching this probably have your own horror stories of it. Although, I still won't get too excited just yet, because this game does have a boss rush later in the game, so, you know, it's not the end of it. But here we have Mad Gear, we have the start of some cool music, not quite as cool as the actual Metropolis Zone theme, but they've got the right kind of energy. And the slices are back. You have all the greatest hits from Metropolis Zone. You have the shell crackers, you have the slicers, you have whatever those little star enemies are called. I can never remember them, because they're not quite as annoying. They don't have quite as annoying hitboxes as the shell crackers. I swear that should have killed me, but I'm not going to complain. But yeah, like, in terms of the marathon itself, I hope you guys have been enjoying the runs we've been putting on this year. Because one of the things that, like, I was kind of conscious of when we were planning this marathon is that it hasn't been that long since the last Sonic-a-thon, and I was a little bit worried that we might just be, you know, re-stepping on things we've already done, and that's why a lot of us are kind of changing up our runs a little bit. Like, you know, for the Sonic Adventure run, I showed off the DLC. The fact that I did Sonic Adventure this time rather than leaving it to Tom, and, you know, like, we've changed up some things. Some things have also had to be just played safe, because the nature of a live marathon means that sometimes people have things come up that they can't avoid, and so other people have to step in. And so that's why there's also a lot of Tom and I. I hope you guys aren't sick of us yet. Like, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I get sick of my own voice, so you guys watching so many of my runs this marathon, I hope you've been having fun. Them pink things in the enemy chains, they have spikes that if you hit them at the wrong moment, they can fuck you over, and especially the ones that are over pits. I think there's a couple of those. That one wasn't quite so bad, but this is another section where you got to remember to jump, because that can go horribly if you try to spin dash. I can speak from experience there. So, escape from the cog trap. I kind of like that these levels do have like their own little subtitles going on, rather than just being like Act 1, Act 2 and so on. At the same time though, I kind of wish they were a little bit more creative for some of them, because some of them are basically just, here's what you do, and that's the title. I don't mean like going full meme on it, like I imagine this game probably would do with those sections had this game came out like during the meta era, but you know, sometimes a little bit of creativity doesn't go amiss. These things show off what I would say the reason why I think this game feels slower than classic Sonic sometimes. You might notice there, as Sonic was... okay, that's not going well. You might notice that as Sonic was starting to move there, he had a walking animation, which you saw for quite a while before it went into his jogging animation, and then eventually his run animation. Whereas like classic Sonic goes pretty... like it goes straight into the running much quicker. So like, this feels slow. Like right now, this feels like we're going a lot slower than Sonic should really be going. No, that's not the part I was thinking of. I know there's one of them parts where you have to be really quick to get through a door. Like, look at this shit. This is Sonic the Hedgehog. This is Sonic the Hedgehog going for a stroll. Well, that's annoying. At least I didn't die. Sometimes you have to count your blessings, you know? Fucking hell! What do they want from you there? Oh, I see. I haven't been this route ever, I don't think, so... but I wasn't expecting to see them things move quite so quickly there. I don't know if that switch from the top there actually would have done anything to help me in any context. It feels like they just sort of put an extra switch there just cause. Wrong way, gotta go this way. This might be the part where we've got to be quick. Yes, it is. This might be a twofer because there's this fucker there who slows me down. Oh no! I made it! It looked like they should have crushed me, but it didn't, thankfully. It is pretty ballsy putting a slicer in a homing chain area. Up there's the obligatory death. There was going to be at least one here. But like, the slicers don't feel particularly reliable enemies to have in your homing attack chains, because like if they throw shit at you, then they're gonna break it and completely crush your momentum. Alright. Yeah, let's just get the hits out of the way here and try again. God, Sonic, get a fucking move on! Yeah, I was going to get twatted by one of them at least. There's just far too many of them. And of course, the death right near the end meant I ended with an absolute dogshit score. This game doesn't have rankings, but it does mean like if your score is fairly low, then you don't get your bonus life. I'm not sure what the actual threshold is. I know there's a lot of this level that's basically keep moving by any means possible. Like, that part there can crush you. That part there can completely destroy your hope. The animation on these cog things is so fucking jank. Because, like, it feels like it's going at, like, a quarter of what the frame rate is supposed to be going. Something I can give this game credit for is that the frame rate is a very consistent 60. It's nice and smooth in that respect. But some of the animations are really fucking jank regardless. I was worried I'd get caught there, which wouldn't have gone too well. Christ, that was very, very close there. I really don't want to push me luck too much with some of these. Okay, I guess we're going this way. Lower route it is. I'm glad that thing seems to have stopped chasing me for a minute so I could get on here. Okay, I was sort of unsure for a minute there if that would be a pit or not. Oh my god. Oh. I know there's something that some streamers do where they can get like a heart rate monitor and they have their heart rate shown on screen while they're playing the game or whatever they're doing. I bet that if I were doing that during some of these moments there, I would probably start worrying some people, because like my anxiety is a bit rapid as it is, but when I get very near-death experiences like that, my god. Again, the spin dash is not a good tool here, but sometimes it's your only real option. Because when you've got that sort of curved floor going on like that, there's really not much space to like do your dashes. Fucking hell. You've got to be really quick through here. Be like there, if I just dashed at the wall there, I would have got knocked back down, so I had to rely on the not great spin dash. Alright, let's go quickly. Thank you. Didn't die. Missed the boost pad, which for a Dips game is scary. Fuck! Alright, I'm showing off so many fun, wonderful ways to die in this level. Because at the end of the day, I just want to not die. I know that seems like a big request for this game, but still. And now we make sure we get that boost this time. And now, thankfully, the thing seems to have stopped again. Oh wait, no, it's there. It's just slowed down. It kind of takes a lot of the drama out of the level when you can see how obviously scripted the main hazard is. So for this boss, he's gonna start throwing off these little ball things, which are the actual hazards in this boss. Like this first phase, you can kind of, I guess you can tank it a bit, but because of how this game's ring physics work, I wouldn't advise tanking too many. You might be noticing every time you get hit, the rings spread a little bit further. And so that means that it gets harder and harder to get your rings back. The longer the fight goes on, the more hits you've taken. So it pays to be careful in early phases of fights. But now we're going on to phase 2, which is the more fun, more interesting part, really. Even though it's an auto-scroller, even though it's the most advanced 2-boss coded part of the game. Because like, as much as I love Advanced 2, some of those running bosses, they can be quite tricky. At least this boss is running along a flat ground. It doesn't have the like random ramps on the floor to throw off your jumps. I am not doing too great here. Blue ones are much quicker, and there's some big yellow ones that are much slower. Like so. Just take it a bit slower. And there we go. I don't know why his like breakdown there was so loud. Like I had just looked over at OBS and I saw that it was like peaking the game audio. I don't think games are meant to be mixed like that. But yep, that's the 4 main levels of the game all done. And now we're moving into endgame. And now we are going into the end game with Egg Station Zone. And I hope you like this wonderfully monotonous, repetitive boss theme, because we're going to be hearing a lot of it here. That was kind of a joke, Eggman. Come on now. I am tired of this boss theme already. I'm also tired of this boss arena already, because the turquoise and brown thing they've got going on here, it kind of looks terrible. This doesn't even look like the kind of thing that would be appealing on a smaller screen, it's just bland. I have to be a bit careful here, because I can never remember exactly how like the unfolding from the ball works in this game. It feels very inconsistent and very strange compared to what you'd expect from Sonic. Next up will be the Lost Labyrinth even boss. So this is where we have to be careful about getting crushed. I very nearly got crushed right away as I was saying that. Alright, it's the pattern on the left, so that means we get over here. Yeah, and it feels like they move back in faster this time around. Like, making it much harder to get a second hit in. Oh, well I managed to get a second hit in there, so it's not impossible, it's just more fiddly. Yeah, I'm not trusting that one. Like I say, they're going faster here, and I don't necessarily have faith in this game's control to let me off of the vertical ones. That's probably the easiest pattern overall. It doesn't seem to have done that for me up until now today, but when you get that pattern, it is literally just stand over on the left and jump a couple times. You don't really have to think about that one. Up next is the chasing boss, which we did like a few minutes ago, so this should be fairly straightforward. Know what I'm doing here. He does have that new attack though, where he throws out these spikes that don't bounce. That's just something to bear in mind. You have to pay a bit closer attention this time, I guess. If you don't get those big ones right away, it really does feel like you're kind of just praying for the best there. There we go. Now I need rings before the actual final boss. That would be very, very much appreciated. And the longer it goes without me having rings, the more nervous I get. There we go, we have 3 rings to work with. Let's see how this goes. Because the big problem with this boss that a lot of people have is that it does go on for absolutely fucking ages. And that means that if you get fucked over right near the end, you're going to be redoing a lot of shit. And it will go on for a really long time. Like this thing, I think you can bait him into firing his things over. Maybe not. That was just a bad jump overall. I'm off to an excellent start here. Try and get some hits in. Can't remember exactly how many hits it takes to get rid of him, but as long as I just keep twatting him whenever the option makes itself easy enough. Like so. I was being a little bit overly cautious for the first couple of jumps, but I want to make some progress, even if it's just chip damage. And now he goes into his second phase, where he is going to electrocute himself. I weren't getting away from that one. The invincibility frame did come in handy though. Now I think he's going to fire his arms over, but they can only go so far. Yeah, like that. So now we wait for the arm to come down. And what we can do, bounce on it, Dio, and that opens him up to attacks. I think trying to get any more than 4 in is sort of pushing me luck though, so I'm going to try and be sensible. Is he going to fire his arm off? Yep, he is. Cool. And now it is quicker to just sort of bounce on the thing rather than homing attacking it, because when you homing attack, as you just saw from me doing like the actual hit on him, that leaves you, like, it throws you quite a long distance away from him, which means that it's harder to get all of the hits in. Like, sometimes I have to do that when I get hit by a projectile otherwise, but you know, the general idea is to not use the homing attack if you don't have to. This is a valid strategy, I'm sure. Alright. Come on, another couple of hits. Alright, now I think he's ready for his watch out, he's up to something attack. Yes, he is. So for this one, you do have to get a hit in. Like so. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episode 1. So overall, like I said earlier, I do still kind of enjoy this game. I've had a good time replaying it today, outside of like a couple of annoying sections, but that kind of, they spoke for themselves. This part here you do actually have control over. So if people really notice that, you can still jump, it's just the direction is automatic. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for more of the HFC Sonic-a-thon 3 and Knuckles.